left, right.
Yo, what's up? Today we are talking about artificial sweeteners and consent when it comes to sexual advancements and come-ons and things like that, especially in light of what's going on with the governor of New York, Cuomo. This is a pretty interesting topic. We're just delving into it, just some highline stuff. Future episode, we'll get a lot deeper into consent and bring in some guests from the female persuasion, and looking forward to that. So I'll see you on the other end. This is SipTalk. Grab a drink and enjoy.
Process go.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Hard-hitting facts.
Yeah,
Well,
I feel like that
Robust
introduction.
debate.
I feel like that introduction would have been better for the consent. Hang back, just let the magic happen.
Well, I also really like the former Obama administration advisor said about Lindsey Graham's comments. Well, Donald Trump, he's got a lot of darkness, but he's also got a lot of magic. And he says, David Axelrod, the magic is racism. That's what they're harnessing. So
let's get back to that comment in a minute. We are live across all platforms. This is Sip Talk, episode 84. My name is Justin DiGiulio. Today I am joined, as always, by co-host James, the Bosnator Boswell, accountant extraordinaire, professional referee, bartender, and what's one of I think four is too many. We got to narrow this. Philosopher. That's a big one. I think they're all good. I think they're all good titles. So it's tough to leave them out. And we have David. We're trying to narrow down your specialty.
Well, I think we can go with Politico.
David.
That follows within, James is the philosopher. I do mortgage loan stuff, so finance and markets. That's also up my bailiwick.
And political expert. But definitely, I'm joined by brains on both coasts, which helps me out because I just got to keep talking, carry the conversation. They drive the content. Today,
We're the guardrails.
Today we have some important topics. We're talking about consent and seltzer. So we're going to start with.
So
two things that white chicks are super into.
Well,
we think you need to base that off of race. I think that's pretty broad appeal for both of those.
But I
think that's the pretty.
Obviously, seltzer is the broader topic that applies to everyone. So a lot of asexual people in Asia, so it's not an issue at all. Right before we got on air, we were talking about seltzer water, and what I said was I've been drinking a lot of seltzer. I also drink a lot of diet soda. So today I was reading an article about artificial sweeteners. I'm going to get into that. I just want to kind of digest the article, the three of us, so I can help explain to people how to comprehend science. I think if the normal person read this article, they're going to say, oh, this is really, really bad for you. But I read the article and I said, none of these things really apply. And I'm not saying it's good for you. I'm just saying there's no hard science in this one.
Isn't that kind of a binary choice of, well, I'm not saying it's good for you. What's the alternative explanation?
Well, something can be, it's a curve, right? So good is on one side of the spectrum, bad is on the other side of the spectrum. In the middle is neither.
Maybe you should explain why people thought it was bad.
Well, that's what I'm going to get to in the article.
Okay.
We're going to take a shallow dive into consent. We were talking about consent in the last podcast, which I think is a very good topic. Consent, obviously a big one. A lot of people doing fucked up shit like Cuomo. Even though I don't think what Cuomo did was that bad, but I'm not too familiar with what happened.
Well, you hear about today's news?
I may have. Was it like I misspoke because I wasn't accounting for this. Was it an under the skirt? Was it an under the skirt grab or something along these lines?
Yes.
So.
Okay, but again, we're talking allegations. Not that this guy's reputation.
Allegations that were reported to the police.
Oh, okay. Again, I'm learning as we go, and I'd like to. I think it's a good thing to not have my opinion set on one side of things or the other side of things. Like I'd like to, a lot of the times I just leave still without an opinion. But I'm curious what the new evidence is. Let's go there in a second. I want to know what you guys are drinking. We'll start up top with David Boswell in California.
All right. Well, I already had the bourbon poured. So tonight we're going to do a nice little Manhattan without the garnish. I've got a little bit of the,
sweet vermouth.
Just a little bit because I don't like it too much. I prefer the bitters more than I do the sweet vermouth.
So you got sweet vermouth, you got bourbon.
And it's good old Evan Williams. That's already in the cup. And then, just a couple of dashes of the bitters. Ice is already in the cup.
So that's really made to taste though, because you're.
It is. It's not a traditional 2-to-1 Manhattan of bourbon to vermouth and then like a couple of dashes. It's for me.
All right, cool. And then what do you have over there on the?
Staying boring and going with Busch Ice again. I'm kind of waiting on buying liquor until I have the new house set up, so that way I can just have a fully stocked bar from day 1 or day 2.
I think, and then you have to move all the bottles. So that's cool. I do want, because obviously we started out, with SipTalk in the real estate realm. I want to, and we have a lot of real estate people that listen, and everybody, is at some point interested in real estate. I want to kind of get a bit of a status update, and then I want to go through the steps that you've gone through so far, because you're in the middle of the home buying process.
Yeah.
And I think you can shed a lot of light on, as to what you've done, what you're doing, and what's next, and what you don't know is next. And hopefully I can fill you in on that a little bit. So you get the Busch, you get the Manhattan. I got a diet soda. It's a diet 7-Up. Very popular soda, 7-Up. I haven't seen 7-Up in the longest time. I never drink Sprite or 7-Up or.
So it's really popular.
Whatever the other one is. But I saw it and I was like, oh shit, I haven't seen 7-Up in a really long time. I'll go with the diet one.
I prefer DNL.
Oh, I missed that.
What is it?
So 7-Up is like famous for having like no caffeine or whatever. So they came out very briefly with DNL, which is like the 7-Up logo flipped upside down, and it was like more caffeinated than Mountain Dew.
Okay, well that's good. I like caffeine, which is why I usually go with like a Pepsi Max in place of a regular seltzer, is for the caffeine. So
like Double Zoo.
Fill me in on where you are with the house.
Not much to update really. I'm still waiting on the appraisal report to come back. So
and we talked briefly about the appraisal
pretty much
last time, right? So
we might have done that. Did we talk about that on the air?
I don't know, but again, I want to cover the process so far. So right now, where you are is you've made an offer. You've engaged a mortgage lender, which you probably did before having made the offer, because you need to establish your budget.
So I got, if we were to go from the beginning, it would be, I started off by getting pre-approval for financing to have an idea as to what my budget was.
Yes. And who did you reach out to for that?
So I work in an accounting office. So we deal with real estate agents and mortgage lenders all the time. So I went to a coworker and asked him, I said, hey man, do you know anybody that would be a good like mortgage agent for me?
Yeah. And they referred you.
Yeah. And so then I just sent an email to them, said, hey, what do I need to do to get pre-approval? And then they sent me a link and I had to fill out some personal information about income and everything else. And with like a day, they gave me a dollar figure for how much I could qualify for on a loan.
Very cool. So then you went and you looked at homes.
Mm-hmm.
And that process sucked a little bit, because that process can suck. And, people have a vision in their mind, what they're looking for, and they try to match up exactly what they're looking for. They have conditions. You had HOAs. You did not want to be part of a homeowners association, and you found a place.
I did. They're looking for a home thing. Now, one thing, I feel like real estate agents have like a hidden language that they try to use to convince people that a house is for them when it might not be. So we went to one house and the pictures looked pretty good, but once we got there, so I don't remember how houses are really constructed in New York,
Okay.
Like a lot of places have basements or whatever.
Yeah.
Whereas in Charleston, no houses have basements.
Well, you're in the low country, right? They call your
Yeah.
area the low country. Okay.
So there's really two types of house constructions. There's like a concrete slab where it's exactly that. It's just a big hunk of concrete, and then you build the house on top of that. Or you have a crawl space where the house sits maybe 2 or 3 feet above the ground, and there's pillars.
So cement blocks are poured, and then the house is basically built across with support beams across the cement blocks.
Yeah. And so crawl spaces can be problematic because moisture gets trapped under there, all sorts of stuff. And so a lot of the houses. Oh, yep. And so anyways, this house, like all the floors were just kind of rolly and everything. And I told him, I was like, I'm seeing, if I were to get this place, I'd probably have to drop like 20 or 25,000 into it. And he says, yeah, this place has a lot of potential. And I says, no. You're saying this place has a lot of potential
because I want to do the work, but potential means lots of work.
Right. That's what I said. I said, you're using lots of potential as in you're going to have to put a lot of work into it. And
potential loss.
Yeah, exactly. I said,
well,
potential means that like there's a lot of things that you can do with this space already without having to knock down walls and like completely redo the foundation.
Well, imagine if you dated like that. If you're meeting, I think women actually do this. I think women do this. He's got a lot of potential. If I could just get him in shape and make him vegan and turn him into, all kosher or something like that. He's got a lot of potential.
Yeah, this could be the summer that he drops the weight.
Oh man. Don't get me started on that.
No.
I'm in a very similar situation with another friend, but I don't want to get too detailed.
So yeah, like for me, what I told my agent, I said, stop using the word, like stop saying this place has potential to disguise the fact that it needs a lot of work. Like a lot of potential is the place is in great shape and you can do a lot of different things with the space that's there. Not you're going to have to knock out half the house and start over.
Okay. And the one you said with the rolling floors, that was the crawl space you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay.
But,
all right. So
the other thing that was annoying is just like people would list like a house is like, so I need 3 bedrooms in the house. And there'd be some places that would list 3 bedrooms. And one of the bedrooms was like an alcove in a garage. And like, yeah, this could be a bedroom. All right, cool. Oh, the shed out back could be a bedroom.
I toured a co-op with a client last weekend. And one of the real estate agents opened a door and she said, well, this could be the current owner's using this as a second bedroom. So if you're interested, you could potentially use this second bedroom. It was a closet with a tiny bed for like their 4-year-old that was sleeping in the closet. And I was like, well, that's not really, I was like, I don't think that's going to work for my client.
No, it sounds good for Harry Potter, living up the stairs. But
I mean, the thing
for a normal person.
Yeah. You probably, you could touch both walls, maybe even with both elbows. I don't know how small this child was, but it was definitely not for an adult. So
all right. So, anyways, I'll
touch on if you're listening to us on YouTube or on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify, and you want to catch us live, you can do so on my Facebook page. That's facebook.com/Justin DiGiulio. Do it on my Instagram page, Instagram @JustinDiGiulio, or on TikTok. That's how you can watch us live. So if you want to get in and you want to get in on the commentary, and I see some comments coming in, especially on Instagram, so I'm going to run through Instagram and read back up the comments. We get there in a second. So I want to wrap through this the home buying process. So you finally found a place, and it sucks finding a place because real estate agents definitely a lot of times it's a shot in the dark. I feel like for real estate agents, especially if they're newer, they have to really know the market. And they have to have access to the right resources to actually really see what's on the market.
So to my agent's credit, he did a really good job, partially because I kind of trained him up where I was just like, dude, don't bullshit me with any of this stuff. This is what I'm looking for. And, but we eventually found a place. And after seeing, I was like, all right, this is the best place you've shown me. I want to win this bid. I don't want somebody else to get this house.
Okay. And you did so by bidding over the asking.
Yes.
All right. But you knew the market and
I had him do a market analysis before we settled on a bid because he also happened to knew the agent that was selling the place. And I said, 260 for this place seems a little bit low. And he says, that's what this agent does, is he'll put in a listing price considerably below what the house is actually going to sell for, because he wants to get a whole bunch of people walking in the door and he wants to get multiple offers. And the person who's selling this house wants to sell it quickly. So they put it out there to get as much interest as possible. So it's probably not going to go for 260. So then he sends me a market analysis, and I said, I want to be in a position where I'm going to be the winning bid. And if not, I want to be damn close. And so we talked over a phone, and I said, this isn't like an auction or a traditional negotiation where I can do things the way I want to do them. This is I put in an offer and hope that it wins. I get one shot at it. And I said, I don't know how to do that because that's not how I am used to operating.
Well, you said you were really looking forward to the kind of back and forth process.
Yeah, but you don't get that with real estate.
Well, I know that.
Well, you're talking about that earlier, though, James. To be fair, like you're talking about really enjoying that. Like, all right, and we were both saying, no, you're just gonna have to come in at a place where you think you're gonna win.
Yeah, I know, and this is a case where my agent had to train me. So,
or the
your friend who is an agent.
person who's an agent, or the other person who's
right, yeah.
Well,
but whatever the case is, I finally realized it's like I'm not going to be able to win this battle.
But your offer strategy, given the current state of the market, was a very smart one. Was offering over the ask. You knew what the market was demanding right now, and you liked the place.
Mm-hmm.
And I think right now, I don't think you're. I mean, I know the details. We won't discuss them on air, but I don't think your offer was obnoxiously over the asking price. I think it was just over the asking price, as if to dissuade if somebody else who comes in at 10 grand less, or at even 5 grand less, the owner isn't going to try to create a bidding war between somebody offering less and somebody offering more. They're just going, and most people are just going to start off less, assuming that other people are also offering less. And then you have a bidding war between two people offering less who, hey, this person is also interested, but $5,000 more interested than you are. I just think you started off in the right foot. So either way, you have an accepted offer. You got an accepted offer, and now it goes on to the attorneys and the banks.
So we're kind of in that phase right now. The next step after the bid was accepted was I went from pre-approval, which is just them saying, we trust your numbers and this is what it is, to now we don't trust your numbers. Give us everything.
Now they want evidence. So tax returns. Did they ask for pay stubs?
Yeah, they did.
Yeah. So just if you're listening, buying a home is actually relatively simple. You're not doing anything complex. And the barrier to home ownership is really just the down payment and some time spent looking at houses and sending emails back and forth. It's really not that difficult. But once you're finished, you'll be much happier that you've done that, because you're going to be spending the money monthly anyways on rent.
And also it comes out to be cheaper.
I would definitely agree. It comes out to be cheaper. Depending on what budget you're going in with to purchase, but
you take some dollar amount of rent and take that same dollar amount and apply it to a mortgage payment plus utilities and everything else, you get more for your money by paying a mortgage and everything else. Because like this house is going to be 2,000 square feet and it's going to cost about $1,800 a month, but I can have 2 roommates. And I'm in an apartment that's about 1,000 square feet. That doesn't feel like 1,000 square feet. It feels like less. And I'm paying $1,200 a month with 1 roommate. So for effectively the same price or a little bit lower, I'm getting a house that's twice as big, and I'm getting ownership instead of just burning money.
Exactly. And you can change shit, which is also nice. So next steps, you have to have an appraisal done. The bank requires an appraisal because they don't want to fund something that they don't know the true value of. So an appraiser is hired, typically by the bank. This time. Well, I was just going to say it may depend on the states.
It just has to be an appraiser approved by whoever the investor is going to be. I run into this occasionally at my job where the branch will forget that we don't trust this appraiser and the investors don't trust his numbers because they're jacked up. As long as the appraiser is licensed and trusted, it doesn't matter who gets them. Just has to be a licensed appraiser.
Yeah, in this case, I had
For
to pay
us.
for it.
So, the issue is, say you have an accepted offer on a home for 500,000, and an appraiser comes out and they say the home is worth 600,000. The bank is going to finance the home. That's a good investment for the bank. But if the appraiser says the home is only worth 475,000, the bank is no longer going to fund the purchase of 500,000.
Because
So,
They will. It's just going to kick it up a tier in LTV. It depends on what kind of loan we're talking about, but you're just changing the percentages. They'll still finance it. It's just going to be a little bit more pricey. Or
not necessarily, because if
you're going from 70% to 80%, you're actually going to make money out of it, because you don't have to you don't have to worry about mortgage insurance anymore.
Well,
so the banks look at that more favorably.
something is changing. So you may have to, what you're just saying, that the mortgage insurance is you're going to put down more money.
Right. Yeah, because the bank's not willing to shell it. The bank's not going to willing to take exposure to an asset where if I buy this house and I never make a single payment, the bank is then going to own the home and have to sell it back to the market.
Yeah, and loss if they've appraised
if it was appraised for way lower than what the bank funded it for, now the bank just paid $500,000 for a house that's worth $475,000.
Either way, the math has to make sense for the bank, and if it does fall through, they need to make sure they're making their money back. So the appraisal is basically telling the bank, who doesn't know, they haven't seen the house. The bank hasn't seen the house in person. They probably don't know. They don't conduct their own market reports, which that's what the appraiser is for. So the appraisal needs to come in at the right number, and then
at or above the asking price.
Yeah, at or above, and then you're green lighted to the next steps.
You want to talk about what happens if it comes back below asking price?
I thought that's what we were talking about.
Because I asked my agent this. I said, "All right, so my offer was 285. What happens if it comes back at like 275 or something?" And I think, and please correct me if I'm wrong here, I basically have two choices. One is that I can choose to walk away and say,
well, you have three choices, really. You can walk away. You can agree to pay the difference, because now there's a $10,000 difference, and the bank isn't going to just say, the bank might adjust their numbers for an increased risk and charge you not
on the program that James is on. He's on Home Ready, which is 3%. So it's not a $10,000 difference. It's a $10,000 percentage difference in valuation. So you're talking 3% of $10,000.
But what may happen is you can just cover it, or you can ask the owner to split it with you. And because the owner is now realizing that his asset isn't worth the asking price or the accepted offer price, the owner may say, well, I guess I do need to pay that difference, because I'm not going to be able to sell it for a higher amount. Not if an appraisal came in at a lower amount, because that's what an appraisal is. It's a valuation in the current market. So
so that's what my agent said, is like, you offer to meet the seller halfway, because if I walk away, then the seller has to relist it. And he now knows that he's not going to be, let's say I bid 285 and it's at 275. He knows he's not going to be able to get more than 275 for it, because any other appraisal is going to come in at 275, and he's going to run into the same issue even if other bids come higher. Exactly. So that's the most that he's ever going to get is 275. So if I said I was willing to pay 285, meet me halfway, you're not getting more than 275 if you go to somebody else. I'm now offering you 280.
Yeah, and that's why that's a good idea, is just split the cost. So moving forward, you get green lighted. The attorney's got to work some things out. They have to set up the sales contract, and then you want to review the sales contract. I noticed the contract in this home that the owner had requested to take the appliances, and then we had it fixed so that they weren't taking the appliances. I think that was a weird contract. And then come to find out, they ended up taking the appliances anyways, which we had to then go follow them to storage and get the appliances out of the storage. Either way, long story. And then you're set a closing date, and that's when you go and you sign and you bring your bank checks, and you are oftentimes in that moment handed keys, and then you can go move in. But it's a pretty simple process.
There's a couple other things. One is I had to get, before, I haven't made the down payment on the house yet. But
I did miss that. Is
yeah,
a
I had to pull out
good faith deposit.
$2,000 of earnest money that I'm putting down, and so that's money that I will not get back unless there's a breach of contract on the seller's part. So that's basically me committing to saying, "Hey, I'm meeting all my commitments, and here's $2,000." So that way, if I breach the contract and say at some point in the next couple of weeks I don't want to buy it, I don't get that money back. The only way that I can get that money back is if the appraisal comes in below and I escape the contract, or the home inspection for termites and other damage, like structural things, comes back with problems.
Well, that's because your offer is contingent on the home passing inspections also, and you getting financing.
Yeah.
So, and that's a contingency clause in an offer, which is very common.
But if let's say for some reason I no longer can get financing, like that $2,000 is gone because I broke my part of the deal.
Well, but a lot of times an offer is contingent on financing.
Mm-hmm.
And but here's what happens is if there are no contingencies, or the contingency clauses in your offer do not cover, for whatever reason, a reason that you back out, and you back out, you lose that good faith deposit, and it goes to the seller.
Yep.
And sometimes it goes to their agent, because their agent a portion of it will go to the agent because their agent has invested time into this, and the owner now has lost their timing on the market, which can suck.
The other thing that I had to do is I had to source a homeowner's insurance contract.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that's also a big one. As a homeowner, the bank is going to require you to have homeowner's insurance, and that's it. I want to move on to some more topics real quick, because I do want to broach.
Oh, so real quick, where we are right now is we're waiting for the appraisal to come back. Appraisal
Exactly.
happened on Tuesday. Supposed to have the report today, but we don't. So
yeah, that's also typically how it goes. She's always waiting, and things are always delayed. So let's see. Should we get into the consent thing, or you want to follow the artificial sweetener?
I mean, with the consent thing, I'm not sure if it matters if I do or don't, but let's just go with the artificial sweetener topic.
Yeah, but when we get into the consent thing, I just want to introduce the topic, even though we're not getting into it right now. Is the consent topic is going to be another part in our long-running series of things that we have no business talking about, but we're going to anyways.
Well, that's again what I want to do, and the reason we're broaching it tonight is I am going to bring in some guests, and I think I'd like to get some people's personal experiences. So if you're listening to this and we haven't aired that episode or recorded that episode yet, let me know if you want to be involved. I'd love to hear some stories, but the more awkward, the better. But I want to bring people on who can share some situations that they weren't sure about. And, consent is a weird thing. The thing is, we're obviously talking about more intimate encounters and sex and trying to get to sex. And that's a very, that's an uncomfortable topic, obviously, for the Boswells.
No. It's the way you said it.
Trying to get to sex.
It's your furtive eye movements whenever you say the word sex. Like, you can't look at the camera like sex. And we're talking about other things.
I'm just thinking about, like, what's the term for trying to get to sex? Is that dating?
But typically what happens is somebody makes an unwanted advance towards the sex, and the other person gets turned off or gets, these days,
litigious.
Yeah, and it gets really, really bad. At the end of the day, really, it should be somewhat awkward for both parties, I feel like, especially the younger that you are.
Is that your go-to line?
Awkward.
look, baby, this is supposed to be awkward for both of us.
No, I mean, the thing is, you're never going to be sure about it, because if you're at a bar and you're a guy and you see a girl on the other end of the bar and you're interested in her, and she walks over and says, "Hey, I really like for you to fuck me right now." That's not, that you're gonna be turned off with that, and you shouldn't be like, "Okay, yeah, let's go," because that should be a red flag.
I thought this was going somewhere way, way differently. Like, you go over to the girl at the end of the bar and like, "Hey, I'm sorry, I'm not interested," and then you keep talking to her and you pester her all night. Like, this is the explanation of consent that you were going at. You went, you took a sharp left turn.
But I think it's a bit more nuanced. The thing is, you see someone, you're attracted to them. You need to convey that you're attracted to them and find out if they're attracted to you. However, conveying to that person that you're attracted to them too overtly makes you unattractive to them.
Yeah, it's just not always so nuanced. Sometimes it's really, really cut and dry.
Well,
hey baby, we're playing the let's get to sex game right now. How am I doing?
So,
Case in point.
But that's the issue. So, how do you get to the part where you're back one-on-one in a intimate encounter or potentially intimate encounter, and you get the okay to move forward?
Duct tape.
Is it implicit? And that's where it gets awkward or uncomfortable, because somebody might think they're coming home with you at 1 o'clock in the morning to play checkers, because obviously when you met them, you were in a checkers club, and you said, hey, I have a great checkerboard at home, and they came home with you. But I feel like that's typically,
don't give away all your tricks at once, Justin.
that's where I don't know the
He
last
doesn't even know how to play checkers.
Yeah, I honestly,
More of a Connect 4 kind of guy.
I don't know the last time I played checkers. But I think, all joking aside, that's where it gets a bit uncomfortable for people. And that's where we run into issues. I think, I've heard stories, never been in this situation personally, of course, where a girl comes home with a guy and the girl isn't expecting to do something, and the guy is expecting that sex is going to happen. Or someone.
Well, I think you should just not expect sex from people. I think that's a good first step.
But at what point do you
not expecting?
Sure, but when someone comes home with
you can want things. No, but there's a difference between wanting and hoping and expecting.
Well, at a certain point, you have to make
there.
At a certain point, you have to make a move, and you're expecting.
Justin, can you not graciously bow out? I know you. I know that you are very good at hilariously and graciously bowing out of a situation. That's why I'm not worried about you and consent issues. That's the question here, is whether or not you can understand what's happening. Okay, so what? She came home with you. She's not feeling it. She's not giving you the signals.
Well,
what do you do? Do you keep pushing and trying, or do you say, well, this was a mistake?
But a lot of people,
and you move on.
Exactly. But I feel
a lot of people aren't as good as you can be.
I feel like, some women may go through with it, or maybe some men may go through with something that they're not entirely comfortable with because they don't know how to say no. I think that's a very good scenario.
For sure.
And
absolutely.
Which and also
as to why consent is so important, actionable affirmative consent. So we're all over 30, we're adults. You can have the conversation. So what? It might be a little bit awkward, but I'd rather have a slightly awkward conversation before we have sex, vigorously and affirmatively, as opposed to after the fact saying, oh, you weren't into that, and then I feel like a piece of shit for
being 30 years old and having experience is much different than being 22 years old or 19 years old or 16 years old. Whenever people start sleeping together these days, it's probably at like 4 years old when they're playing PlayStation or something. I don't know. I feel like the age just keeps getting younger. It's very strange.
I talked more with the first girl I had sex with about when we were going to have sex than the last 10 times I have. So,
well, that's my point.
Back
so
when I was 16, it was a lot more discussed than it is now.
It was a much bigger issue for you back then, and has become
much bigger,
smaller because you've gotten more comfortable with it and you know what you're doing. Whereas it was a whole conversation topic that, that happened for weeks or months leading up to this. And I don't think,
you remember
people have an app now, and they could just.
Yeah. But I think we need to talk about there's been a change in what the type of consent that's expected is, where you can have kind of affirmative consent, which is the hot button topic of today, versus more passive consent that is less in favor. And affirmative consent is basically, yes, we can do this, whatever it is. And you have to basically ask, for lack of a better explanation, you have to ask for permission kind of every step of the way. Do you want me to kiss you? Can I take off your shirt?
That's
That's where I think
Yes,
that's kind of the
but no.
consent that we're talking about when that's a consent that everyone thinks we're talking about when we talk about consent. And then that's the consent that seems obnoxious and retarded and in application doesn't
But that's
work.
affirmative consent.
Sure, exactly.
Sir, where am I wrong here?
you're only wrong in the application of the strictness of it. It's not always that extreme. I think on a first date, it's appropriate to ask before you leave. If you're not, if the signs aren't there and you think, oh, this is going to end on her doorstep or at her car, I think asking, can I kiss you, is not out of line. And I think going in for it without asking might be a little bit presumptive. It's the first date. You don't know this person. So
it would be much smoother if you said, may I kiss you?
fine.
But yeah, I mean that can work. That can work unless you are on the more awkward side and your body language is a little weird, and then the person may have second thoughts in the moment that you ask. Whereas had you not asked, they were all for it because again, we are animals.
That's actually a really bad argument. Wait a minute. Catch them in their uncertainty. You know, just before they can say no, get them to not say it.
Before they think better of it.
But I think you're missing. I think you're missing a huge portion of this, and this is how people behave based on chemicals and hormones that are going on. Your attraction to somebody, who is smooth and.
You're basically asking me to take advantage of a biological roofie to get their consent when otherwise,
whoa. They might not. I'm gonna end this argument right here and say that if the biological roofie is working, then you saying "May I kiss you" isn't going to kill the mood.
But I'm not
saying that.
I'm saying that it may. I'm
saying that if the biological roofie is going on, you're not going to ask the question. You're just going to go along with the biology and not ask the question. Affirmative consent be damned. So you're just like going with it, even though with a clearer head, like this is a bad idea, we shouldn't have done that. But
and I think that like the example of affirmative consent of may I do this every step of the way, to me is a bit much. I think it's at any point if someone says no or stop, that's when you have to stop.
Yes, I definitely
100%.
Yeah, I think if you ever hear somebody or feel somebody even physically kind of pushing back, or if you hear the word no or stop, then it needs to be a pretty hard, needs to be a pretty abrupt, it needs to be a pretty abrupt all. But again, we may not be the best. We need, I just saw Nicole Feliciano, who has joined us a couple of podcasts about sexual harassment at the workplace. She would probably be a pretty good female voice on this. But what I'm talking about is this area in the middle where I really truly believe that you would turn somebody off by saying certain things, and you're kind of in the moment. And that's my concern. I also think that's most people's concern, and it's not something that is of high frequency. I think for the most part, if you get explicit okays, that's probably fine, and it's not going to kill the moment.
Generally, no.
I think that asking every single thing that you're going to be doing, you're right, that's going to absolutely kill the mood. But asking a couple questions here and there, like especially as you're feeling things out in the very beginning, just make sure you're on the same page. Well, it's a balancing act.
Sure. Right. And we sit here while we're drinking cocktails and a beer in South Carolina, and we're talking about consent. And I think alcohol may play a role also in people's, what's the word I'm looking for? But basically after the fact, so taking back their consent.
So here's an argument that I got into with a coworker when I was bartending. And here's the scenario. Guy and a girl go out. They have drinks. They both go back to one of their places. And they continue drinking. And they're both at an equal level of inebriation. Both of them are super drunk. and both of them are at a level of drunkenness where if you were to say that one of them is sober and one of them is drunk, you would say the person who's drunk can't consent. They're too drunk to be able to make that decision, right?
Sure.
But now both of them are that drunk.
Okay.
My argument was that neither party is like either responsible or irresponsible. Like that's consent, because like if neither party can consent, then like you don't have a consent issue.
But
And
bear in mind that the dude, and again, and that's why I think it would be cool to have some other guests on, especially those who are not straight, but just including those who are not straight, but usually it's the dude who is the aggressor.
Right,
and
but
if
what
the
I'm
dude's
saying,
not into it physically, sex is probably not happening.
right, but what I'm saying is that like you can't, like if sober dude, super drunk girl, you can't have consent. If they hook up, that's on the dude, and it may be a crime.
It's actually on the girl, and that would
But-
be
yeah, but-
that part of it
No,
is.
No, I'm saying that it's
no, I'm joking.
yeah,
but
I'm saying that like it's the dude's
the
responsibility
fault- the
to act
fault is on the
responsibly
guy.
because she
Exactly.
can't make the decision.
Exactly.
And it would go the exact same way if the dude was super drunk and the girl was sober. But what I'm saying is that if both of them are super drunk, now my stance to my coworker was, this isn't rape, this isn't a crime, this isn't a consent issue, because neither party could really give consent, so we can't hold this against either one. Her argument was, it doesn't matter how drunk the dude is. If the girl is drunk, it's a consent issue, and he should that's a negative thing. And I said, how is it that we can hold one party responsible but not the other when things are equal?
Though, is it's the guy that is typically the aggressor. So,
but not always. And why is it that if we have equal BACs, equal inebriation, that we have different levels of responsibility?
Because it's usually the guy.
And we're saving this for the Jordan Peterson podcast that we do
penetrating the woman.
But we just no, that's just gender normative.
But
however you want to look at it. However, you assume guys to be the aggressors and women to be the reluctant acceptors of male sexuality, but that's not actually how things are. A lot of times women want to have sex just as much as we do. They just don't like us as much as we like them. That's where the deficit is.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know where James just fuck off there.
James just disappeared.
Sorry, video cut out for a second.
Of frank sexuality. James,
no, I can still hear you. It's just for whatever reason the video cut out.
So, but right now I'm seeing, and let me roll through some comments. Because the last comment just said, if you ask, may I kiss you, and they agree to kiss, and the chemistry is there, and you want to take it further, you can say, is this okay? And if she says or he says, they will let you know. But again, asking questions at every step of the process could become a bit of a turnoff. I don't think it'll ruin the moment, but it's a bit
It
weird.
can if you do it too much.
It's an
balance.
American
it's
issue.
Absolutely balanced.
It's an American issue, 50-50 responsibility.
So the people are agreeing with me.
But it's just people meeting at a bar and having some drinks. All right.
I don't know what to do with this.
What's that?
I'm saying the people are agreeing with me that if they're both equally drunk, they're both equally responsible or irresponsible.
Before going on a first date,
James is surprised that people are agreeing with him.
Before going on a first date, you need to do a lot of talking. And by that time, it's got
to
be because of chemistry.
No, that's what the first date is for the talking.
My thinking is too much talking.
I'm sick of these. And then there's nothing to talk about. Leave some mystery for that. If you want to go out and have drinks,
here's what happens: is if
last few dates.
If you're talking to
my last few dates, they all live 15 miles away from me.
If you're talking to 6 people on Bumble, and one person wants to talk to you for a month before they ask you out, and another person just comes through suave and asks you out in a way that you like, that person's winning. So yeah, the more talking, sure, that would be better. But at the end of the day, you got to meet in person and see if you have that chemistry. And
it's different personalities too. I just had a match.
It is for.
I just had a match with a girl, and she said, "I don't really want to talk a lot online. asked me to go do something. So we had like 2 or 3 messages. It's like a day between messages. Like, hey, do you want to do something this week? Because I'm free taking your profile at your work. It's like, thank God, because no one ever actually says anything and actually asked me to go do something.
That's very strange.
So there's some people who like the pen pal thing and getting to know each other before you go on the first date. And then there's somebody who said go out, have a drink, see if there's a spark there. Instead of, feeling obligated to respond to these messages of someone you're not really that interested in.
The pen pal people may not actually be wanting relationships. They may just be wanting attention. And they're getting this attention through these conversations. They're feeling wanted across, in many directions.
So push the envelope. Say,
let's grab a
drink. Go out for a drink?
Yeah.
Because a drink is half an hour. If they don't like you, they can dip out after half an hour. It's not dinner where it's a 2-hour commitment. It's, hey, we get one drink, and if you want to keep talking, I'll order a second round. If not, well, you said you had this place to be, so I better go.
Well, I think that's a good date strategy. You go out to meet for a drink, then you say, would you like another? And then another, and then another, and then another, and then consent isn't an issue. I'm joking. I feel really bad.
Can she taste the rupees?
No,
yes.
No. But what I'm saying is
that just knocks the 5-drink limit down to 1.
I also think if you have,
do it.
These guys are joking about rupees, by the way. If you can't catch on to this, that's fucked up. Actually, that's a whole nother fucking podcast topic, and that's why I keep comparing what's his name. Cuomo to Bill Cosby and saying he's not Bill Cosby, although recent
Bill Cosby was worse than Cuomo, assuming that no more allegations against Cuomo come out.
But I think going out for a drink, good idea. Having another drink, good idea. Let's grab some. Are you interested in grabbing some food? Yes. Okay. You grab some food. Are you interested in maybe going somewhere else? And you kind of keep upping it, and you're making sure things are, because you're giving the person many outs.
You're testing interest.
But
you're saying,
yes.
do you still want to be around with me? And you're giving exactly. You're saying, here's the door.
Yeah, you're providing an easy out. Because again, I feel like and this is the issue with consent, a lot of people may do things that they're not totally down for because they feel uncomfortable saying no. And I think really that's one of the bigger roots in the consent issue is people not being comfortable saying no. So they need to be provided with the opportunity not to.
Well, there's also power dynamics that play into consent.
Yeah. Well, okay, yes, especially if it's like someone like Cuomo, who's obviously.
Yeah.
But let's. I just want to share this article with you guys on our artificial sweeteners, so we can transition out of the consent thing. Because again, I wasn't
such
prepared.
A smooth operator.
What if I don't want to see the article?
Well, whether you consent to it or not, I am the host of the meeting, so I can.
There's the door.
Right.
You wonder why James camera cut out, didn't you? But I want to artificial sweeteners, and I want to again. I like to have an idea where my head is on an idea before I go into it and take a stance. And right now, I feel like I'm just kind of feeling it out and obviously going back and forth with you guys to see what we kind of most agree on, because
what does the article say?
It's not on everybody, but let me get to the artificial sweetener article, because I've been trying not to drink as much beer lately because summertime's coming up. So I've been drinking seltzers and I've been drinking diet sodas. I'm a big fan of the diet soda. I don't drink a ton of diet soda, in my opinion, but I would say I have
diet soda
one a day or so. But I like that there's no calories, and one a day is a lot if you're somebody who doesn't drink diet soda. But I also don't drink soda at all. Like the idea of drinking, I don't really drink. I don't drink any juice, because to me, just the idea of drinking something that is so full of sugar to me is really not appetizing at all. Like if somebody gives me a glass of orange juice, unless it's half full with champagne, I'm not going to finish it. But then again, I drink. I'll drink a bottle or two of wine. I'll drink 6 beers. I'll drink a bunch of liquor. But that's where I don't draw that line for the alcoholic beverages. And I draw the line.
What about diet juice?
I would probably drink a diet juice. I would drink a diet.
Hey, just water it down 50-50. Now it's diet juice.
That's not how that works.
Or mix it with vodka.
Just remember the Hastings definition of diet soda?
Yeah. So Eric's definition of diet soda was if I drink a soda and then I drink a water afterwards, the goodness of the water will cancel out the badness in the soda. And David,
Right. So you could have a diet soda.
that brings us back to where you were before. And I'm saying water in this example is not good. It's just simply the middle spectrum.
Do the math.
Well, you have you have the soda, which would be a -1. You have water, which would be a 0. And I don't know what we're calling a +1, but it may just be vomiting in that case. I don't know.
Well, for some reason, I have this memory of Eric insisting that he knows exactly how microwave beer tastes.
What?
We should bring Eric on. Well, I don't want to get into that too much, but we should bring Eric on one of these days because he has some really good theories. I remember when he decided he had invented a drink, and it was the ingredient. He had a name for it, I don't remember, but the ingredients for the drink were 1/2 vodka, 1/2 milk. So milk and vodka at a 1-to-1 ratio, and he finally.
I was waiting for the improper fraction about 1/2 triple sec. That's not how this works.
No. But when we were younger, getting our hands on liquor or alcohol was very difficult to do.
And naturally, he thought this would go really good with milk.
So we found the vodka, and he made this drink. And we watched him drink it, and we knew in our heads there was no way this could be a good drink, and he knew at the first sip that there was no way this could be a good drink, but he decided to double down on it still being a very good drink because he invented it after all.
Is that a different story from the time that he tried to chug a gallon of milk saying he could? Doing the
no, that is a different story.
That is
okay. These are
Eric is a very interesting guy with a lot of good stories. So
a lot of milk related stories.
Eric is a big fan of milk. So we'll go there in a minute. Let me hit you with the artificial sweetener, because the title of the article, it's Harvard Health Blog, artificial sweeteners, sugar free, but at what cost? And I'm going to skim through it real quick. By offering the taste of sweeteners without any calories, artificial sweeteners seem like they could be one answer to effective weight loss. The average 12-ounce can of sugar-sweetened soda delivers about 150 calories, almost all of them from sugar. The same amount of diet soda, 0 calories. The choice seems like a no-brainer. The American Heart Association and the American Diabetes Association have given caution to the use of artificial sweeteners. All right. Well, there may not be.
Can I just say how absurd 150 grams of sugar is?
No, 150 calories. It's usually about 45.
Calories?
Yeah, 45 grams of sugar in a 12-ounce.
Okay, that's still 1.5 ounces of sugar. That is a little over. It's a little less than a quarter cup of just
sugar.
3 big tablespoons from the kitchen of just pure sugar.
3 tablespoons.
Oh yeah,
it's
of
an
sugar.
Obscene amount of sugar.
While they are not magic bullets, hear me out. While they are not magic bullets, the use of non-nutritive sweeteners could help you reduce added sugars in your diet, therefore lowering the number of calories you eat. Reducing calories could help you attain and maintain a healthy body weight, thereby lowering your risk for heart disease and diabetes. As with everything, there's more to artificial sweetener story than their effect on weight. To learn more about them, I spoke with Dr. David Ludwig. I'll get the author's name in a minute. Okay. All artificial sweeteners are not created equal. FDA has approved 5 sweeteners. They all have scientific sounding names, and 1 natural sweetener, which is stevia. One concern is that people who use artificial sweeteners may replace the lost calories through other sources, possibly offsetting weight loss. Okay, so this is the first argument that's made in the article, that people who drink diet soda, because they drink a diet soda, actually, I will read you the quote here. I'm drinking diet soda, so it's okay to have cake. That's
That's not what the article's saying. The article's saying
that's what the article is saying. That's what the article is.
No. You're making a psychological justification, and the article is making a biological justification.
The article's saying that you're not getting the calories, you're not feeling as full because you're drinking the diet as opposed to the full sugar.
Sure, but
again, that's different than the justification that you're giving.
If you're counting,
there's a biological no. There's a biological response and there's a psychological response. You're focusing on the psychological response. James and I are talking about the biological response, which is what you brought up in your first argument.
Which is you want to eat 3,500 calories a day. So your
body wants to feel that.
Your body wants that 3,500 calories a day. But the article says, I'm not.
But that's different. I don't care what the article says. The article is written by an idiot. The article is giving a psychological response of, well, because I didn't have any calories for the soda, I can have this. That's completely different than my body needs 3,500 calories a day. Those are completely distinct things.
Exactly. But what I'm saying, I mean, for me, I'm not then going to eat cake because I'm not having the calories. My diet's staying the same. In fact, I've been supplementing beer with diet soda.
I do the same with whiskey. I lost 25 pounds in the last 2 months. I'm back down to like 150. I got down.
Liquor rather than beer.
Drinking liquor rather than eating food.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, is it possible that these foods change the way we taste? Non-nutritive sweeteners are far more potent than table sugar and high fructose corn syrup. A minuscule amount of these sweeteners taste comparable to that of sugar without comparable calories. Overstimulation of sugar receptors from frequent use of these high intense sweeteners may limit tolerance for more complex tastes. That means people who routinely use artificial sweeteners may find less intensely sweet foods, such as fruit, as less appealing, and unsweet foods, such as vegetables, as downright unpalatable. So they're saying that because people are used to this intense sweetness, when they eat something that's natural, it just may taste blah to them.
Well, that could check out if you're using a 1-to-1 ratio of sucrose, sugar, sweetener to stevia, but you don't, because we know they're 10 to 100 times more sweet than the others. If you're a cook worth half your salt, which I don't think most are.
You're not
talking about salt. We're sticking to sugar here. We're not talking about salt.
But you're not emptying your stevia packets into a cup to add a cup of stevia to.
No, and that's really hard thing with the standardized packets is you have the same by weight of sugar, stevia, sucria, whatever the other sweet and low, all those other ones. So you have to know like which one of those is going to be as strong or stronger than the others. But for baking, you can actually do really well with stevia and baking and get things to the same sweetness level. You just have to know the measurements. Exactly. Just because one is inherently more potent than the other doesn't make it worse. You just have to know what you're doing.
Yeah, well, but again, if you're baking, you're probably not going to be able to use, for the most part, and you can, but for the most part, you need to have the mass to the sweetness. So and they act differently. I don't know if you, maybe I'm wrong, but I don't know if you can melt stevia or
for a creme brulee. James, for a creme brulee, you're not going to want to use stevia because it's not going to crystallize the same way. No. But for baking products, if you just need to get a basic sweetness mixed into the overall baked good, you're not talking a huge amount of mass difference there. It's not going to be a huge difference in the overall moisture. Sugar is usually counted as a wet ingredient, even though it's a crystal, it's dry. But when you're doing wet and dry ingredients in baking, sugar counts as a wet. It doesn't really matter.
Artificial sweeteners may play another trick too. Research suggests that they may prevent us from associating this is one I think is funny. They may associate sweetness with caloric intake. As a result, we may crave more sweets and tend to choose food that's sweet over nutritious food and gain weight. So, did you guys pick up on that?
Again,
so you're thinking like, oh, well, I usually drink diet soda that's very sweet and it has no calories. I'm going to have a piece of cake because that can't possibly contain calories as well.
I don't know.
But how is that different than drinking normal soda, which diet soda is supposed to?
And that's again, I don't
drinking normal soda.
So this is really an argument against drinking sweet things, regardless of whether they contain calories.
Participants in the San Antonio Heart Study who drank more than 21 diet drinks per week were twice as likely to become overweight or obese as the people who didn't drink diet soda. And
yeah, but that's a correlation causation thing.
and that's what
It's
I
a
mentioned
great
earlier.
example of it.
Yeah,
They're trying to do anything. They're just people who are addicted to sweets and they just can't stop. And that's why they drink a lot more diet soda, because like that's a cheap way for them to get that sugar fix. But they still lack the self-control to not pound the caramels the other 7 days.
Yeah. But then
I mean that compassion.
Yeah, the diet soda is not the cause of their weight problem.
exactly.
The diet soda is not it's not making the problem worse. The problem exists and the diet soda is a symptom of it.
Exactly. To me, that's like bleeding out of this, but a lot of people are not catching on to that. They're just saying, well, if you drink it, it must make you obese, which is not at all what it's saying. But it's leading people to believe that. Next one, and this one I like, because after this next paragraph, most people are going to read this and be like, "Oh, it's got to be really bad." But you say you can give up diet drinks whenever you want. Don't be so sure. Animal studies suggest that artificial sweeteners may be addictive. In rats who were exposed to cocaine and then given the choice between intravenous cocaine or oral saccharin, most chose oral saccharin. So obviously,
James?
diet soda is worse than cocaine.
So actually, I think our mom actually might have had something to do with that. When James and I were 5 and 9 respectively, our mom, who was a badass, the first or second full professor at Siena College, she was working in the psychology lab, and one of her colleagues from RPI, Larry, I think he went through all the rigmarole to go through all the different controlled substances things. They had this huge jar in the lab of 100% pure government cocaine.
Think like those tubs of protein powder, but not protein powder.
Well, it'll get you into the gym.
Yeah.
I don't know if you get the gains that you're looking for, but
it's wild.
Workouts won't be so focused.
We brought some of those rats home. I don't know where they all went. They just started dropping. Yeah, they just started dropping off one by one. Pretty sure Kitty had a lot to do with that. Pretty sure Dad had a lot to do with the other half. Like, I don't want these fucking things in here. Just like let them out. And the other half, like he let out to Kitty.
Either way, what they're basically saying, obviously, artificial sweeteners are more dangerous than cocaine.
So can you repeat that one? So they got rats addicted to cocaine, and then they
found animal studies suggest that artificial sweeteners may be addictive. In studies of which rats were exposed to cocaine and then given the choice between intravenous cocaine or oral saccharin, most chose saccharin. I mean,
that's a little scary.
But I also think
artificial sweeteners are just as addictive as regular sweeteners. The control should be that they should have.
Okay, I don't care what the sweeteners are, James. He's saying that they'd rather take sweeteners over intravenous cocaine. I don't give a shit what sweetener you're talking about.
I get it, but
I could be Canadian and you could give me straight line AAA class maple syrup.
Okay, but no, my argument is that this is not necessarily an argument against artificial sweeteners. It might be an argument against sweeteners in general, because I would like to know, did the rats prefer the artificial sweeteners or would they have preferred regular sugar water?
I had heard of a study that that rats chose sugar over cocaine. I'd heard of it, but this is what I'm reading right here. So
and that's what I care about. Is that scary? Is how much sugar we're pumping into cereals that kids eat every day, and if sugar is really much more addictive than cocaine, and I asked the two of you to think of the most fucked up friends that have addiction problems that you've known. And I'm going to take a stab that it's probably a meth or cocaine based addiction that was really, really screwed up. And I think most people here might have those friends to say that sugar and sucrose and different sweeteners
let me ask you a question.
More addictive.
Let me ask you a question.
That's scary.
Let me ask you a question. How many friends do you have that are heavy cocaine users?
None.
Let me
personally.
You don't have to answer. And then my next question is, how many fat friends do you have?
Also none.
So I have my friends in the Bay Area.
You see,
I don't have a ton.
You're missing my point.
I get it. I get it. I don't know what the point actually is. Explain what
the point is. That obviously sugar is doing something.
Well, sugar is more socially acceptable.
Okay, sure, depending on your circles. But
find me the kids party that has cocaine, cotton candy. You just like spin that around.
I mean, I'm thinking of
seriously, find that for me.
I'm just thinking of this is.
I'm just visualizing like a whole bunch of 6-year-olds like going around like a fucking particle accelerator.
Well, I mean, here's
kids. 6-year-olds don't need cocaine for that. Have you been around 6-year-olds? I taught elementary school. You already think they're on cocaine.
But here's what I'm thinking: if I in the regular course of my day encountered somebody who was always eating a donut versus somebody who took a bump of cocaine, I don't know which one I would have more respect for. But I definitely, watching somebody.
I can tell you which one I would think had a problem.
I think they both do actually, but I'm not condoning either.
I think James actually only thinks the person with the donut does.
But
actually,
why do you still have that donut?
I think they're both very bad. I think they're both very bad, and that's all. I think I think sugar is really bad. I like when I try to buy bread or something like that, I try to buy it without added sugar. I don't think you need to put sugar in bread. But it's an ingredient that.
Have you had a donut?
Yes, and that's not what I'm looking for. That's not what I'm looking for when I buy bread to make sandwiches out of.
I found that as I get older, like my taste for sweets has just so seriously declined. When I make coffee these days, if I don't have it straight black, maybe a little bit of cream, maybe like a half teaspoon of sugar. But it used to be like, I'll get one of the Coffee Mate different things, which have like 30 grams of sugar per dose.
Yeah.
Like, why? I don't like it. I just can't stand sweetness and things that don't need to be sweet.
Look,
why does this need to be sweet?
I'm not into. I'll eat like cake if you put it in front of me for the most part, but like I will not seek out sweets. I don't like candy. I don't like sweet. I'll drink margarita, but I don't like sweet drinks. I think the majority of the drink, and obviously there's a lot of
margarita. A proper margarita shouldn't be sweet.
Yeah, that's true.
Why is your margarita sweet?
Because usually they're not. Depending where
margarita is from the family of drinks called sours.
Yeah,
true. What is it? But people end up putting
3, 2, 1. 3 parts lime, 2 parts tequila, 1 part triple sec.
Done.
Yeah,
triple sec sweet.
Right, but it's 1 part out of 6.
I get it. I just keep going back to the Archer episode where he makes a really anti-Semitic remark about how hard is it is 3 ingredients.
All right, guys. So we're gonna call it here. Anything else? Any current events that we should catch on here?
Everyone's getting $1,400 checks.
That'll be everyone.
It is everyone under $75,000 of income annual per capita of 2020. It is pretty impressive that within 50 days that Biden said, hey, we're going to pass a $1.9 trillion bill to bail out the economy because it needs it. And in 50 days, he got pretty much every single thing he asked for. The only
some small compromises here and there.
Only compromises he made was $400 re-up to $300.
And the
only
$15
other compromise that wasn't ever really seriously part of this. He wasn't invested in this. He never ran on that. That was Bernie and AOC, and that's okay. There's an argument to be made for that. I don't think it belongs in reconciliation because it's not a budget issue. And if we're going to say we should have played by the rules, then we should play by the rules. And that was outside the rules. The parliamentarian said it. I'm okay with 15 minimum wage being outside of this bill because it didn't belong there.
Yeah, debate it separately.
It should be passed 100%, but it didn't belong here.
Yeah.
But he got everything that he asked for, 1.9 trillion. When the Republicans said, we'll give you 600. He said, no, we're going to do this. You can be on board or you can't.
But and by the way, it's super popular with all the voters.
With over 46% of your party and 76% of the country. So
I imagine the people that wouldn't be for it would be over the threshold anyways.
They're already gone. You have 49% of GOP males saying that they won't get the COVID vaccination under any circumstance.
That's stupid. Oh, and speaking on like the vaccination thing, like Biden's done a really good job overall of trying to get more vaccines out to more places. You can look at the trends. Like vaccines have really gone up. Now, how much of that is credit to Biden, and how much of that is just kind of pent up supply finally getting it out to be distributed or whatever? I was able to get my vaccine today. I'm kind of lucky there, but like I wasn't expecting to get one for months, and I was able to pull it off.
Nice thing is, within 2 months, if everything Biden is saying right now is true, and I truly hope it is, I'd like to think it is. He's saying that by May, every adult should be able to get it. I think I'll be able to get it by the end of May, and that's only 2 months away.
All right, David, get it. Don't even ask for consent. Just go get it. All right.
That's not that feels like a bending of my message.
All right, guys. On that note, I will catch you guys next time. Thank you for joining.
All right, laters.
Have a good one.
Thank you for joining. If you have watched this far, listened this far, don't forget to like, rate, subscribe, and comment on this episode. Thank you for joining.
I like PBR. I just got priced out of it.